안녕하세요. 과학의 가치를 나누는 휘코리아 테크놀로지에서 주최하는 웨비나에 오신 것을 환영합니다. 오늘은 세포 유전자 치료 개발에 필요한 기술 플랫폼을 보유한 신테고사의 수석 임상 영업 컨설턴트인 에비 쑥맨님을 연서로 모셨습니다. 에비 수석님은 생화학과, 교육학을 전공한 후 세계적인 제약회사인 GSK에서 12년간 분자 생물학 및 단백질 관련 연구를 수행했습니다. 세포 유전자 치료 임상 실험을 15년 넘게 상담해 오고 있으며 현재 신테고사에서는 크리스퍼 기반 치료법을 개발하는 과학자들의 임상 실험 영업 상담을 담당하고 있습니다. 세계적인 병원, 연구기관, 그리고 제약회사들과 세포 유전자 치료제 개발에 협업하고 있는 신테고사가 웨비나에 참여하신 여러분의 연구와 임상 실험을 어떻게 도울 수 있는지 오늘 에비님의 웨비나를 통해 살펴보시기 바랍니다. 질문은 채팅창에 사용해 주시거나 발표가 끝난 후 직접 질문해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. Thank you, Abby, for being our speaker today. Please begin your presentation.
Okay, thank you for that kind introduction. I didn't understand any of it, so I'll trust that you were kind to me. It's a great honor to be invited to speak with you guys today. I'm sure I was introduced as the lead clinical sales consultant with Synthego. I've been here for about 4.5 years, and I'm really delighted to have been invited to have this talk today. So I'm going to jump right into it. I do want to say that if there are any pressing questions that will prevent you from understanding what comes next, if I'm speaking too quickly, or if you don't understand something that I've said, can't hear me, whatever, please let us know and we'll correct that. So I want to start with just kind of a little bit of an overview of the environment of what's going on in the cell and gene therapy world right now. I'm going to direct you to the bottom of this particular slide. Hold on a minute, I'm going to see if I can find my pointer. Oh, I don't know how to do that here. So hopefully you can see my cursor as I speak. But
Yes.
down at the bottom here, oh, good, thank you for that. I'm not as familiar with WebEx as I am with some other platforms. There's a quotation by Scott Gottlieb, who was the commissioner for the FDA for several years. And this quote is from 2019. And at the time, he was predicting that the FDA, so the regulatory agency here in the United States, is going to be approving 10 to 20 cell and gene therapy products every year. And that's based on what's entering the pipeline at the time. And this is really a profound statement because he's talking about approvals at this point, not just therapies that people are bringing into the clinic. And if you look at the top, you can see that there's a fairly even split between therapies in the US and therapies in Asia Pacific that are progressing through that pipeline. In Europe, although it's lagging behind, is catching up quite quickly. And I think this is really important because it kind of sets the stage for some of the things that we'll be talking about later on. So now I've lost my mouse and can't progress the slides. Well, still won't go. There we go. Sorry about that. So again, at the bottom, over here on the right, a key problem for cell and gene therapies right now is that people are trying to enter the clinic quite quickly, and they're being faced with challenge in how to balance kind of that need for speed, because patients are waiting, of course, and the ability to be able to actually find the manufacturing space in order to obtain both the materials and services that they need. And over here on the bottom left, you can see that as of now, we're estimating that there's about a 500% manufacturing shortfall for cell therapy products. What that means is that there are people who are waiting for long periods of time in order to obtain the necessary materials to enter clinical trials. And right now we're estimating that about an 18-month lead time for GMP grade reagents. So I generally suggest to people that they start talking to the organizations they might want to partner with at least 12 to 18 months before they think they're going to be ready to order a product. So not necessarily when they want to receive the product, but to actually order a product. So the data that was shown on the previous slides was for cell and gene therapy as a whole. And if we parse this down a little bit further and look at what that means in terms of CRISPR-based cell and gene therapies, you can see that there's been an incredible increase. So we're looking at other methods for using edited cell therapies in white, and then CRISPR-based editing cell therapies in the greenish and blue. And you can see that over the past several years, so really since about 2018, CRISPR has really been overtaking that market space. Currently, there's 4 CRISPR trials that are in late phase, and I believe that just within the past couple of weeks, I think that there was a new submission for approval. So what are some of the hurdles that people are facing? And this is the answers to this question on this slide are based on an internal survey that Synthego did. We conducted this last year, and we did this blinded, so people did not know that Synthego was the company that was asking these questions. If you look down in the lower corner here, 92 respondents, but it's very clear that predominant concerns are really around timely procurement of GMP grade reagents. So being able to source those products and services that are going to meet the regulatory needs. And that combined with this really kind of discomfort around not understanding what the regulatory guidelines actually are. And this does vary a little bit from country to country, but not by very much. It seems like the regulatory agencies are surprisingly in line with what they expect for these types of reagents and what the expected quality really is around these products. So how can we de-risk these challenges? How can we make this journey easier and take away some of the anxiety that these challenges are creating? And as I mentioned early, it's really key to plan very early. You want to plan early. You want to engage with your partners in a timely manner. I don't think it's ever too early. I speak with people all the time who say, oh, we're not going to be ready for 2 years. And I think, well, that's just about the right time to really start engaging with people and securing your partners. And it's really important to understand that there is this shortfall in the ability to deliver these on in a timely fashion. If somebody were to ask me right now, when can you get started? It's not going to be for quite some time. And then we propose that Synthego really could be a complete cell therapy partner for those of you who are working on CRISPR-based therapies. And what we mean by that is that we're here to support you from the very early phases. So from target ID and validation, so really kind of the discovery part of science, through your preclinical, so IND enabling, your early toxicology animal studies into clinical trials. And though we're not there yet, we do want to be there for you when you're ready to really enter those later stage clinical trials and potentially move into commercial manufacturing. A little bit about us as a company is depicted here. Oh, that did not sound good. Is everybody okay?
Yes, everybody's fine. Please proceed.
Okay. Just checking. So we've developed 2 platforms, and up here in the green is really kind of what we have for what we call our Halo platform. And Halo really is our foundational platform, and it encompasses the synthetic guide RNAs that Synthego makes. And in the not too distant future, so over the next several months, we'll be launching a ribonucleoprotein. So that's the pre-combined guide with Cas9 nuclease delivered as that ribonucleoprotein at research grade to support early discovery. Currently, we're making GMP-like or GLP grade guides. So this is to support kind of the non-clinical or preclinical, or in some cases, very early clinical phases of clinical development. And again, we plan to bring this ribonucleoprotein product to market fairly soon. And currently offering full GMP for guides and will for ribonucleoprotein as well. I'm going to mention very briefly, but I'm not going to dwell on it because we're not in the clinical space, but we do have another platform of engineered cells. So for those people who require engineered cells and don't really want to have to make them themselves, we do have research grade engineered cells available in a wide range of immortalized cell lines and iPSCs, and we are intending to bring these products through that same kind of parallel clinical and preclinical process. So if we stop and think about really kind of what Synthego is about and why we're doing this, it really is all about making therapies accessible to all patients, and by supporting researchers from the discovery all the way through the different phases of the clinic. So if you read our vision and our mission, it's going to marry those two concepts. So if we start taking, a little bit closer look at what Synthego does in terms of kind of that clinical continuum from early all the way through entry into the clinic, in terms of guides, we really want to go from, quickly accessible, inexpensive research grade guides at small scale that are going to help you determine what it is you actually need. And then as you move across this continuum through GMP-like and GMP, you get a tightening up of quality control, an increase in the documentation that you receive, until with GMP, we have fully compliant molecules and all of the documentation and all of the regulatory support that our clients need in order to basically make their case and submit their clinical trials to the various regulatory agencies. To date, we have supported or we've provided 87 clinical batches supporting, this number is obsolete. We've actually brought on 2 new clients just in this week, so we're up to about 30 now, companies that we're supporting. And you can see from these numbers that we do have a lot of people who are either asking for multiple guides to support their trials, but we also have a lot of repeat clients. So people who've worked with us have really enjoyed that that relationship and have received high quality reagents, and they're coming back to us. We've had 10 successful audits with no major findings, and we're supporting 8 IND and pre-IND projects at this point in time. It's always exciting whenever one of our clients tells us that their IND submission has been accepted. One of the things that's really important to note is that we're growing. So just as you see this increase in the need for CRISPR guides and this kind of compression of available manufacturing space, so it's becoming harder and harder to get manufacturing slots, we're expanding in order to meet that need. And if you look over on the kind of upside down L shape on the right, this is kind of a floor plan of the facility that we're currently building. So we're expanding to an 18,000 square foot building that has about 10,000 square feet of lab space. We expect that's going to provide us with about a 20-time increase in our manufacturing capacity. It will enable us to put in place new programs that are going to help us to shorten our timelines. We're innovating optimization of GMP guide RNA and we're implementing a full ribonucleoprotein laboratory. So I don't remember which one of these it is. I think it's over here somewhere. But we will have a fully GMP compliant ribonucleoprotein lab. All of these are in full compliance with the international standards and the harmonization agreements that are in place or fully compliant. We received our ISO 9000 2015 certification in, I guess it was late last year because things were really kind of delayed due to COVID. We'd submitted much earlier and expected that much earlier, but it took some time to get it done. This is also going to enable us to have full redundancy, and that's something that's really important in a GMP manufacturing situation, so that if for any reason something happens to an instrument or it goes down, or we will have others that can take those place. We'll have multiple suites so that we'll be able to do parallel manufacturing processing, and not just for synthesis, but also for the downstream processes. And we'll have fully automated controls in place and expanding to full 24/7 production capabilities. So where we think that you're going to see a really big difference with working with Synthego is that we have that full kind of continuum from research grade all the way through GMP. You'll see continuous reliability. So if you're seeing excellent performance with the research grade, you should also see excellent performance with their GMP-like and GMP grade material without having to do any further optimization or doing very little optimization. You should have full confidence in the culture, in the quality that you receive, because we're fostering that culture of quality and excellence. We really, want to partner with you, and we want to ensure that all of the regulatory and manufacturing support that you need is available. We help with documentation. And because we are a CRISPR company, and that's really all that we do, you're going to have unparalleled CRISPR expertise at your service. One of the things I really like about working with Synthego is that our subject matter experts are always available, even at very early phases of our conversations. So sometimes the second meeting that I'm having with a client is involving subject matter experts from our side as well as from their side, so that clients can really make a good decision as to whether they're getting what they expect from us. And I really like that about this company. It makes us, it gives us access I've never experienced elsewhere. When you're talking about GMP, when you're talking about bringing therapies into human beings, it's all about quality. If you don't have quality, it's not GMP. We're committed to providing customers with the best quality and as close to on-time service as is humanly possible to achieve in a GMP environment. We do this by, not just maintaining the current facilities, but by continuous improvement. That's something that I see every day. Our processes get better. Our SOPs get better, so sometimes they change as we make these improvements, and it's all around meeting our clients' needs and the expectations of the regulatory agencies. So some of the things that we have put in place for that are robust electronic management systems that are scalable and allow us to integrate all of the systems together. We ensure that we're in full compliance. We listen. We get a lot of feedback from the clients that we work with directly from regulatory agencies about what it really takes in order, what those requirements are going to be in order to meet those expectations, to have approved submissions, which is really where our continuous improvement is. We've started a GMP college to ensure that all of the operators are completely trained and compliant with all of the GMP SOPs and know what they're supposed to be doing. We foster a culture that makes each individual feel accountable and have ownership in what it is that we're doing, so that there's a feeling of we have a stake in this as well, and we have the regulatory compliance that I mentioned earlier. In terms of regulatory support, really what we try to do is make sure that we're providing the best guidance as possible to our clients as early as possible. In order to do that, we stay in touch with what's going on in the regulatory landscape. So we collect knowledge wherever we can. We do rely on client feedback for that. And in a lot of ways, that's very easy because a lot of times our clients are asking us to partner with them. So they're asking us to help them write technical documents that are going to be used for their pre-IND or IND submissions. We've attended meetings with clients so that we're there to directly answer questions that the agencies might have around the guides. So we made them. We're in the best position to answer in-depth questions, and we're able to do that. But that also comes back to us and helps us give better advice later on. And we also, whenever possible, will help communicate that back out to our clients and to incorporate that into new development and product optimization. In terms of regulatory support, so we do, in the United States anyway, we have these interact meetings. I don't remember exactly what the acronym stands for, but basically these are 9 non-binding early meetings that sponsors can use in order to kind of in an informal setting ask questions to ensure that the analytical tests that they're doing in preparation for their IND submission are going to be sufficient. In order to help with that, we can put together briefing documents. We've sat in on these with clients. And then when people get feedback, so what happens in the US anyway with FDA is, you'll have an interact meeting, there'll be a list of questions. The regulatory agency will give you feedback and request a response, and we've been able to help people address and draft those responses. In terms of IND submission, we actually are able to author the drug substance CMC section, so the module 3 section for CMC. This can be provided either as a written document or it can be provided in the format that's required for submissions. And we've also provided post-IND submission support, and that's in making our subject matter experts available in order to provide very customized responses to the very specific questions that the regulatory agencies have asked about the client's specific submission. So if you order a guide from us, if you order a GMP grade guide from us, you would, we have a menu of the manufacturing and controls that we can offer. So standard, we would do an appearance of what the molecule looks like in the tube, what's the concentration. pH, we don't do all that often because people very often are ordering and receiving guides as lyophilized material. So that may not be as important. There's a lot of questions around identity and purity. So these are 2 very important release tests that we provide. Of course, we need to ensure that there's no endotoxin, bioburden, or sterility issues with any of the guides. I also like that when you come to us and order a molecule, you'll be assigned a dedicated alliance manager. So what the alliance manager does is they act as your project manager, and they will keep you informed of everything that's going on. They'll make sure that all of the documentation as we progress through release testing, as we put together the batch records, that all of those are reviewed and signed off in a timely manner. in the event that there are any glitches or any type of nonconformance, they will communicate that. They will coordinate any meetings or any questions, get answers to questions that you might have from any of our subject matter experts. So the alliance managers become quite important in your relationship with us. We provide electronic batch records, and we do this both for GMP-like as well as for GMP material. Some of the optional items that people often ask for are method development and validation. For instance, if you would like to have any of these analytical methods validated for your specific molecule, that's something that we can do. People want water content. We're getting feedback that elemental impurities and residual contents are pretty much required, at least by FDA. We've added sequence confirmation because that, again, was a very clear request from the regulatory agencies pretty much from the beginning. It's not something that was easy to provide because it was something that there weren't really any good analytical methods out there, but that's changing now. We routinely do stability studies on GMP-like and GMP molecules. And again, we can provide full support for documentation and agency interaction. So how do you know which grade guide it is that you want? And that's really going to be dependent on the type of therapy that you're bringing into the clinic. So is it ex vivo or is it in vivo? Is it allogeneic or is it autologous? So how risk tolerant are you? What phase are you in? What do you expect to, where do you expect to be with that molecule? And pretty much, it's agreed at this point that pretty much as soon as you're moving into human at all, over here on the far right, you have to have GMP. And it doesn't really matter what type of application that is. For some of the IND enabling studies, so for your GLP, for your tox safety studies, if you're doing process development scale up and not planning to take that directly into the clinic, then you may be able to get away with a GMP-like under GLP molecule. If you're very risk tolerant, you might even choose a large scale research grade for some of your really early safety studies. But for the most part, what I'm seeing when I speak with clients is that people are using GMP-like material here. About half are still using GMP-like material here, and others are using GMP. And we still do have some people who would like to be able to use GMP-like for early phase 1 clinical trials, but it seems like the regulatory agencies are really kind of tightening the belt around that and not really interested in allowing that. And what we're expecting at minimum is that regulatory agencies are going to want to see sterility testing on all molecules going into human. If you're not doing sterility studies for some of these IND enabling studies, there will be questions. So you need to be able to support why you didn't do sterility and how you think the bioburden and endotoxin is going to be indicative of what you will see when you move into a GMP molecule. We're seeing consistent requests for stability studies, even for GMP-like material, sequence verification, and more those questions that are being asked around the related impurities within that molecule. So what we see pretty much based on how these guides are synthesized is that there's always going to be some missed bases, so that as you add a base, sometimes one doesn't go on. That leads to N-1, N-2, N+1 species. The fear here is that they could potentially cause an off-target edit. So the regulatory agencies really would like to understand what these are, how they got there, and what the potential impact is going to be on a patient. So if you look at GMP-like under GLP, which is considered to be a very high quality molecule compared to GMP, which is truly your clinical quality guide, they're very similar. So the processes are very similar. What we do is going to be the same. Where there is difference is in the facilities where they're made and the documentation that you'll receive with these. So in terms of scale, they're similar. Since we're working on ACTA OP100s or ACTA OP400s, the scale is going to be at minimum around 200 milligrams is going to come off of one of these instruments. Although we're able to go up to the multi-gram scale, and we expect to see this increase with the opening of our new facility. Purification is identical in terms of solid phase extraction, HPLC, tangential flow filtration. For GMP, we do add an 0.2 micron filtration. We are not considered to be a sterile fill finish facility. However, this filtration step enables us to provide sterility studies for folks. And so far, we have not ever failed sterility or bioburden for a GMP molecule. For those people who really need to have sterility for the GMP, like under GLP, we're able to add that 0.2 micron filtration and then move the final fill finish into this ISO 5 Class 2 biosafety cabinet so that that downstream process will be identical. The manufacturing space for GMP, like under GLP, is controlled, though it's not classified because that's not required under GLP, whereas the GMP manufacturing facility is done in clean rooms that meet the ISO 7, 8, and 5 standards. All of the raw materials are traceable for both processes. We do identity testing on the GMP and potentially can do that for the GMP, like under GLP, though it's not standard. And there is some differences in terms of the batch records that you will receive for these two different types of manufactured molecules. And there is full quality oversight for both of these, and you'll receive a full quality control and quality assurance documentation with GMP. So once you have a molecule, once you've placed an order with us, so the process with Synthego is you would work with somebody like me up front. You know, I would talk to you about your program, gain an understanding of what it is that you need. We'll go back and forth. We'll bring our subject matter experts together and really kind of hash out the details of what your program looks like and what your requirements are. So all of these initial discussions, technical discussions, are things that I will drive. You place your order, and your project or program will be initiated. We'll understand what the deliverables are and tell you what your timelines are. We've collected this information on your product specification form, put together a proposal and quotation so that before anything starts, everybody knows exactly what the plan is, what's the testing that needs to be done, and how long everything will take, what it will cost, and all of that. We'll work together to get contracts set up if required. And then once the order is placed, you'll start to see a shift where more and more the alliance managers are going to be the major point of contact. They're going to ensure that quality agreements are reviewed and signed off on time, that the batch records or product specification forms are reviewed and signed off on time. And they do this really early on by scheduling a kickoff meeting, and that's to align expectations. And I think it's important to point out here that that really kind of does work both ways, because we have found that sometimes clients have expectations that we weren't aware of, and we didn't account for the amount of time that that was going to take. So we ended up in kind of a time scramble. So these kickoff meetings are really important, but they're important for us as well as for you, because we need to set those expectations and ensure that everybody is aware of what has to be done before we can start. These can include things like quality audits. Some clients need a master services agreement, some clients don't. So understanding this early is very helpful. When your manufacturing date comes up, we'll schedule another meeting, and at that time we'll schedule regular meetings so that we're in touch with you either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on your preference. That's to ensure that you understand where we are in the process. We start tracking our milestones. We'll set up a place where we can share documents that both sides have access to. And anything that's actionable will be tracked, and we'll make sure that everything is followed up in a prompt manner. And then, once we deliver, our relationship doesn't end there, because what we find is a lot of times there are still a lot of questions. People go to the regulatory agencies ask questions. We'll help answer those questions. Sometimes they ask for additional texts. So we'll work with you to try to find a way to be able to provide those things so that you're not hung up by that. I saw a question pop up, but it disappeared really quick. So let me see if I can find that. So I have a question that's how we conducted risk analysis studies on leachables and extractables from single-use consumables used in all of the processes. And I don't know the answer to that question. I do know that when we're able to analyze reagents that go into the process. So anything that we've put in, we can test for to see if it comes out, but I'm not sure that we've tested for leachables. And that is actually something I would bring one of my subject matter experts in to address in one of our meetings. So I know that wasn't a very satisfactory answer, but that's what I know about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just not, I don't know. We have had clients ask us, though, can you do things that we haven't done before? And that is something we try to be flexible about. So if we can think of a way to test for things that people are asking for, and it's reasonable to do so in terms of cost and time, we're willing to work with you.
Yes, that's very good to know. Thank you.
I think I finished with this slide, so I'm going to go to the next one. Maybe I'll go to the next one if I can make my slide deck progress. There we go. And we're getting very close to the end here. I think this might be my last slide. So the goal here is that Synthego, nope, that was a couple of different slides. So we really want to help empower you to improve human health. So that's really our goal. That's part of our mission statement, that at the end of the day, there are people who are waiting for therapies, right? And that's what this is all about. We understand that time is of the essence. When people are sick and they have these debilitating diseases or life-threatening diseases, time is of the essence. So we do everything we can to improve our capabilities in terms of predicting outcomes, in terms of providing things like RMP complexes that make your workflow simpler because we've done it for you. Trying to make analytics better. We want to be known for our safety profiles, because if it's not safe, if you don't see the efficacy that you should, then it's not going to, you're going to fail in the clinic, and that's not what we want. We provide first-class regulatory support. This is something I hear all of the time, that people really appreciate the fact that we're able to do that. And overall, what we want to do is reduce development cycles. We want to reduce costs so that we're improving outcomes for human health. And I think that's what I have. So that's the end of my talk. So if people do have questions, I'm happy to take them. Either through the chat or if people just want to speak up.
네, 질문이 있으시면 채팅창에 남겨주시거나 아니면 직접 질문해 주시면 감사하겠습니다. So, Abby, I think you'll be our primary contact for South Korea customers when they want to use Synthego's products to develop, cures and therapeutic products. So, could you, talk about the process of contacting you and, how you will deal with our request and our, dealing with the Synthego?
Sure. So I've actually, oh, I did not. What I meant to do is I meant to put my contact details here so that you could reach out to me directly. But the way I like to do this when I'm working through distribution channels is I think it's beneficial for both sides to reach out to fellow Korea and set up a joint call. I think that's beneficial in a couple of ways because I think that one, you usually have a relationship with the clients that you're bringing to us. And I think that's very important to nurture that. Two, I think sometimes it is helpful to have someone who can speak Korean on the line. I don't do that and don't always have that support internally, especially when we're talking about scientific terms. I think sometimes it's helpful to have a translator there. And also, I think that in terms of actually bringing product into the country, I think that you guys can bring a lot to that and assist with that. And if you understand what we're doing, what the timelines are, that can be very beneficial to the client, to the end user.